In the heart of Africa, nestled amidst rolling hills and acacia trees, lay the village of Umofia. Life here moved at a gentle pace, guided by the rhythm of the seasons and the wisdom of the elders. Amidst the vibrant tapestry of village life, there lived a woman named Amina. Amina was known for her radiant smile and her kind heart, but most of all, she was known for her milk. Every morning, Amina would rise before the sun, her footsteps soft on the dusty earth. She would make her way to the village market, balancing a clay pot filled with the richest, creamiest milk imaginable on her head. The villagers loved Amina's milk. It was sweet and nourishing, perfect for dipping warm bread or adding to morning porridge. Children would clamor around her stall, their eyes wide with anticipation. Mothers would smile gratefully, knowing their families would be well fed. Amina's milk was a source of joy and sustenance for the entire village. But Amina held a secret close to her heart, a secret that, if revealed, could shatter her world. Amina's milk didn't come from cows, as everyone believed. It came from her own body. Amina had lost her husband Musa in a tragic accident a few years ago. Left to raise their two young children alone, she struggled to make ends meet. One day, in a moment of desperation, she had stumbled upon an old woman in the forest. The woman, her eyes twinkling with ancient wisdom, had offered Amina a solution: to sell her own breast milk. At first, Amina had been hesitant. The idea felt strange and taboo. But as she looked into the hungry eyes of her children, she knew she had no other choice. And so, Amina began her secret trade. She would wake before dawn, her heart heavy with the weight of her deception, and express her milk into a clay pot. Then, she would head to the market, her smile masking the turmoil within. For a while, everything seemed to be going well. Amina's milk was a hit, and she was able to provide for her children. But as time passed, doubts began to creep into her mind. Was she doing the right thing? Was she deceiving her friends and neighbors? One day, a young boy named Kelechi approached Amina's stall. He was a curious child, always asking questions. "Amina," he asked, his eyes wide with wonder, "where do you get your milk? I've never seen you with any cows." Amina's heart skipped a beat. She forced a smile and ruffled Kelechi's hair. "It's a secret recipe, my little friend," she said, her voice light. "Passed down from my grandmother." Kelechi nodded, seemingly satisfied with the answer. But Amina knew that her secret wouldn't stay hidden forever. Someone, someday, will discover the truth. And when they did, the consequences could be devastating. Tano, a respected elder in the village, had always been a man of keen observation. He noticed the subtle changes in Amina's demeanor. The way her smile seemed a little forced, her eyes a little distant. He also noticed that, despite her booming milk business, Amina never seemed to have any cows around. One day, as Tano was walking through the market, he overheard a group of women gossiping about Amina. "Have you ever seen her with any cows?" one woman whispered. "I haven't," another replied. "And yet she always has plenty of milk to sell. It's strange, don't you think?" Tano's curiosity was piqued. He decided to keep a close eye on Amina, hoping to uncover the source of her mysterious milk. Early one morning, before the sun had even begun to rise, Tano crept out of his hut and made his way towards Amina's house. He hid behind a clump of bushes, his heart pounding in his chest. As he watched, he saw Amina emerge from her house, carrying a clay pot. She walked to the back of her yard, where a small shed stood. Tano held his breath as Amina entered the shed. A few moments later, she emerged, the clay pot now full of milk. Tano's eyes widened in disbelief. He had seen enough. He knew Amina's secret. The next morning, Tano confronted Amina at the market. "Amina," he said, his voice grave, "I know your secret." Amina's face turned pale. "What are you talking about, Tano?" she stammered. I know where your milk comes from, Tano said, his eyes fixed on hers. It doesn't come from cows, does it? Amina's heart sank. She knew the game was up. Tears welled up in her eyes as she nodded slowly. It's my own milk, she confessed, her voice barely a whisper. I had no other way to feed my children. Tano's expression softened. He understood Amina's desperation, but he also knew that her secret could not remain hidden any longer. Amina, he said gently, you must tell the villagers the truth. They deserve to know. Amina's heart pounded in her chest. She knew that revealing her secret would have consequences, but she also knew that Tano was right. She couldn't continue to live a lie. That afternoon, Amina gathered the villagers in the market square. Her voice trembled as she confessed her secret. At first, the villagers were stunned into silence. Then a wave of anger and disgust washed over them. You tricked us, one villager shouted. We trusted you, another cried. You're a disgrace, a third yelled. Amina stood there, her head bowed, as the villagers hurled insults and accusations at her. She felt ashamed and humiliated. She had never wanted to deceive anyone, but she had been desperate. The elders of the village stepped forward, their faces grave. They listened to the villagers' anger, then turned to Amina. Amina, one elder said, his voice firm, you have betrayed the trust of the village. Your actions are unacceptable. Amina nodded, tears streaming down her face. She knew she deserved their condemnation. You are banished from Umuofia, the elder continued. You must leave immediately and never return. Amina's heart shattered. She had lost everything, her home, her livelihood, and the respect of her community. With a heavy heart, Amina gathered her few belongings and left the village. Her children clung to her, their eyes filled with fear and confusion. Amina didn't know where they were going or what the future held. All she knew was that she had to keep moving, away from the place that had once been her home. As Amina walked away from Umofia, she couldn't help but look back. The village, once a place of warmth and belonging, now seemed cold and distant. She had made a mistake, and she was paying the price. But even as she felt the sting of rejection, Amina also felt a flicker of hope. She had her children, and they had each other. Together, they would face the unknown, and they would find a way to survive. Amina and her children walked for days, their feet sore and their spirits weary. They slept under the stars, their bodies huddled together for warmth. Amina's heart ached for her children, who were too young to understand the complexities of their situation. One evening, as the sun began to set, they stumbled upon a small clearing in the forest. A lone hut stood in the center, smoke curling from its chimney. Amina's heart leapt with hope. Perhaps there was someone here who could help them. She approached the hut cautiously, her children clinging to her skirts. She knocked on the door, and a moment later, creaked open. An old woman stood in the doorway, her face etched with wrinkles, and her eyes filled with kindness. "Can I help you?" she asked, her voice soft. Amina explained their situation, her voice thick with emotion. The old woman listened patiently, her eyes never leaving Amina's face. When Amina had finished, the old woman nodded slowly. "Come in," she said, stepping aside to let them enter. The inside of the hut was warm and inviting. A fire crackled in the hearth, and the air was filled with the comforting smell of stew. The old woman led them to a table and served them bowls of steaming food. Amina and her children ate gratefully, their hunger momentarily forgotten. As they ate, the old woman told them about herself. She was a healer, she said, and she lived alone in the forest, helping those who were lost or in need. Amina felt a sense of peace wash over her. She had found a haven, a place where she and her children could rest and recover. The old woman allowed Amina and her children to stay in her hut. She taught Amina about the healing properties of herbs and plants, and Amina, in turn, helped the old woman with her chores. As the days turned into weeks, Amina began to heal from the wounds of her past. She found solace in the quiet rhythms of the forest and the companionship of the old woman. Her children, too, seemed to thrive in their new surroundings. One day, as Amina was helping the old woman prepare a poultice, she asked, "Why did you help us? We are outcasts, banished from our village." Amina and the old woman continued to live in the forest, their days filled with healing and compassion. Amina's children grew strong and healthy, and Amina herself found a renewed sense of purpose. She had made a mistake, but she had learned from it. She had been cast out, but she had found a new home. And most importantly, she had discovered the true meaning of kindness and forgiveness. One day, a traveler stumbled upon the old woman's hut. He was weary and hungry, and the old woman welcomed him in. As he ate, he told them about the village of Umofia. "They are struggling," he said. "Their crops have failed, and their animals are sick. They are desperate for help." Amina's heart ached for her former neighbors. Despite everything that had happened, she still cared about them. "We must help them," she said to the old woman. The old woman nodded. "Yes," she said, "we must." Together, Amina and the old woman gathered herbs and medicines. They prepared remedies for the sick animals and potions to help the crops grow. Then, Amina returned to Umuofia. She stood at the edge of the village, her heart pounding in her chest. She had been banished, but she had returned to help. The villagers were surprised to see her. Some were angry, remembering her betrayal, but others were grateful for her return. They knew that she had the knowledge and skills to help them. Amina worked tirelessly, tending to the sick animals and helping the farmers with their crops. Slowly but surely, the village began to recover. As the villagers saw Amina's dedication and compassion, their anger began to fade. They realized that she had made a mistake, but she had also learned from it. She had returned to help them, even though they had cast her out. One by one, the villagers began to forgive Amina. They welcomed her back into their community, their hearts filled with gratitude. Amina's children were overjoyed to be back in their village. They played with their old friends and attended the village school. Amina too felt a sense of belonging that she had thought she had lost forever. Amina's return to Umuofia was not without its challenges. There were those who still harbored resentment, whispering behind her back and casting suspicious glances her way. But Amina refused to let their negativity deter her. She focused on her work, her children, and the newfound acceptance she had found in the old woman's wisdom. One day, as Amina was walking through the market, she overheard a group of women talking about her. "She's back," one woman said, her voice laced with disdain. "And she's still selling that strange milk of hers." "I heard it's not even cow's milk," another woman chimed in. "Some say it's something unnatural." Amina's heart sank. The whispers and rumors were starting again. She knew that she couldn't let them fester and grow. She had to confront the villagers' fears head-on. That evening, Amina called a meeting in the village square. The villagers gathered, their faces etched with curiosity and apprehension. Amina stood before them, her children by her side. "My friends," she began, her voice clear and steady, "I know that some of you still harbor doubts about me and my milk. I understand your concerns. But I want to assure you that my milk is pure and wholesome. It comes from my own body, yes, but it is a gift of nourishment and love." Amina paused, her eyes scanning the crowd. She saw a mix of emotions on their faces: skepticism, curiosity, and even a glimmer of understanding. "I know that my past actions have caused pain and mistrust," she continued, "but I have learned from my mistakes. I have returned to Umuofia, not to deceive you, but to help you. I want to be a part of this community again, to contribute my skills and knowledge for the betterment of us all." Amina's words hung in the air, heavy with sincerity. The villagers listened intently, their hearts touched by her honesty and vulnerability. Tano, who had been watching from the back of the crowd, stepped forward. Amina speaks the truth, he said, his voice ringing with authority. She has proven her dedication to this village. We should not judge her for her past, but embrace her for the good she is doing now. A murmur of agreement rippled through the crowd. One by one, the villagers nodded their heads, their faces softening. Amina's heart swelled with gratitude. She had been given a second chance, a chance to rebuild her life and her reputation. From that day on, Amina's milk stall became a bustling hub of activity. Villagers lined up eagerly, not just for the delicious milk, but also for Amina's warm smile and kind words. Her children helped her serve customers, their faces beaming with pride. Amina's story spread throughout the surrounding villages. People came from far and wide to taste her milk and hear her tale of resilience and redemption. Amina became a symbol of hope, a reminder that even in the darkest of times, there is always a chance for a new beginning. As the years passed, Amina's children grew into strong and capable young adults. They were proud of their mother, who had faced adversity with courage and grace. Amina, in turn, was grateful for her children, who had been her strength and inspiration throughout her journey. One day, as Amina was sitting in her hut, reminiscing about the past, she heard a knock on the door. She opened it to find a young woman standing there, her eyes filled with tears. "Amina," the woman said, her voice trembling, "I need your help." Amina recognized the woman immediately. It was Kelechi's mother, the curious boy who had once questioned her about the source of her milk. Kelechi's mother explained that her husband had died, leaving her to raise their 3 young children alone. She was struggling to provide for them, and she didn't know where to turn. Amina's heart went out to Kelechi. She remembered the desperation she had felt all those years ago, the fear of not being able to feed her children. "Come in, Kelechi," she said, her voice gentle. "Let's talk." Amina listened as Kelechi's mother poured out her heart, her words punctuated by sobs. When she had finished, Amina nodded slowly. "I know what you're going through," she said. "I've been there myself." Amina shared her own story with Kelechi's mother, the pain, the betrayal, and the ultimate redemption. She told her about the old woman in the forest, the wisdom she had imparted, and the power of forgiveness. Kelechi's mother listened intently, her tears drying on her cheeks. When Amina had finished, Kelechi looked up at her, her eyes filled with newfound hope. "Thank you, Amina," she said. "Your story has given me strength. I know that I can overcome this, just as you did." Amina smiled. "You are strong, Kelechi," she said, "and you are not alone. We are all in this together." Amina helped Kelechi find work in the village, and she shared her knowledge of herbs and remedies with her. Kelechi, in turn, became a source of support for Amina, reminding her of the importance of compassion and understanding. And so, Amina's life in Umuofia blossomed, nurtured by the love and respect of her community. Her milk, once a secret, now flowed freely, a symbol of her resilience and the unwavering love she held for her children. Her journey, once marked by shame and rejection, had transformed into a beacon of hope, guiding others towards redemption and a brighter tomorrow. But now, dear viewers, I pose a question to you. Who was truly in the wrong? Was it Amina, driven to desperate measures by her circumstances? Or was it the villagers, quick to judge and slow to forgive?